Hello there guys, what is going on? SonOfChelsea back here again for my team selector and preview ahead of the game tomorrow against Southampton. Away from home, St Mary's, lunchtime kickoff. Have to be honest with you guys, I do enjoy the earlier kickoffs this season a lot more because Chelsea have had so many late kickoffs, and of course I'm doing my sort of review after the game. I just enjoy the earlier kickoffs this season, so any we have, I appreciate a lot more, and hopefully it will get a positive result once again tomorrow in the Premier League, because Thomas Tuchel's side can make it 5 wins in a row in the Premier League. I actually looked back, the last time we won 5 games in a row in the Premier League was that 6-game winning run last season in 1920. I believe Southampton was one of those games away from home, that 4-1 win the last time we went to St Mary's in the Premier League. Let's hope we can replicate that type of performance and win tomorrow, because there's a lot to go into in this game for me, because I think a lot of people will look at Southampton's terrible form in the Premier League. Absolutely, they've conceded a lot of goals, they've struggled, they had another 9-0 defeat against Man United recently, and Chelsea are a side in the opposite way, you know, feeling much more confident. There's momentum, there's positive energy around Chelsea once again, but I still think tactically this will be the first time for me, if Southampton are on their game, the first time I think we're going to get big question marks against the midfield two of Jorginho and Kovacic, how this team looks against a side who aren't just going to sit back and just wait for things to happen. They are going to be proactive in the game. And as we've seen recently, Southampton under Hasenhüttl, that can be of a detriment to them. Chelsea will get space in behind, but I think, as I'll get into previously of Southampton, they're the sort of side I think are going to start testing this midfield for Chelsea a lot more than other teams have. And I think that's going to be the big thing for me, to see how much improvement we've made as we get into some difficult challenges. Southampton away tomorrow, then of course Atletico Madrid on Tuesday, a massive game for Tuchel and Chelsea, and then Man United at home next Sunday, which is a massive game, I think, in the race for top 4. It really is. If Chelsea can win tomorrow, I think it puts a lot of pressure on Man United going into that game against us next weekend. But before we get into any of that good stuff, team news, my look at Southampton, and of course my predicted lineup for the game tomorrow, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also hit the like button if you're enjoying the content, because it helps out the channel as well. So team news, Thomas Tuchel doing his press conference earlier today. Thiago Silva still out now. It's a little bit disappointing on that, because we did see Thiago Silva in training alongside another player who is confirmed to return tomorrow, Kai Havertz. He's back in training, he's ready for the game, which is great. And just on Thiago Silva, I think it's a little bit of precaution from Chelsea, and I think it's the sense of the Atletico Madrid game on Tuesday, of course. If you can only play him in one of those games, what one do you want him to play in? And I think it would be the Atletico Madrid game, because it's a massive game for Chelsea and you want your best players out there, obviously. So I think maybe precaution on that sense, but it's good to see him back in training. So, of course, not involved in this game. I think he likely will be in the squad for Tuesday. If not, then he's ready for Man United next Sunday, which is good. So it's good to see him just getting back to fitness, which is brilliant. Pulisic, next one I want to speak about, because I'll speak about Havertz and Tammy Abraham because there's some good news about them, but seems Pulisic is out. He had a tightness in his calf, and it's another injury for Christian Pulisic. It's another injury problem for him that's going to rule him out of a game, and it just, the more this happens, the more you concern about his long-term future at Chelsea, given how young he is and given the amount of injuries he's had. Given the type of player he is, he's an explosive player that needs his pace, that needs that athleticism, you know, to make off-the-ball runs. And if he doesn't have that, if this is a player constantly breaking down, it's going to really derail his career at Chelsea, especially with all the attacking talent we have. You know, I think recently there's been so much debate around Christian Pulisic, Hakim Ziyech not being in the team. Well, you add on top of that injury issues for both of those players, it's going to cause them major problems getting into the starting 11 under Thomas Tuchel. So he's going to be out tomorrow. But on the positive, as I already mentioned, Kai Havertz back for this game, but also Tammy Abraham is in contention to start this game. Ridiculous, because I was going to make a video about his injury recently and how it looks like he could be out for an extended period of time. He limped off the pitch on Monday night, had to be replaced by Olivier Giroud, but he's back already, and that's crazy. It really is. I felt that this would be an injury that was going to keep him out for a few weeks, but it's great for Chelsea in terms of squad depth. It's great for Tammy Abraham, because that focal position in the team, that striker position, has been up for grabs all season, and if Timo Werner is going to be playing sort of as that left forward currently, it opens up a spot basically between Tammy Abraham and Olivier Giroud for who starts that game. So it's just great for Tammy. He's fit, back again. I don't know if he starts tomorrow. We'll get into that in my predicted lineup. Great to see Tammy is back and ready for this game. But let's have a look at this. You know, Chelsea can make it 5 wins in a row, 4 wins in a row so far in the Premier League under Thomas Tuchel. Really good, lots of momentum. Going up against Southampton now. A few weeks back, before they had this terrible run, this was a game that did scare me. It really did, because not only what Southampton did to us earlier in the season, but just Southampton had have impressed me, and I think they still do. I think people need to go into this game with precaution and just assuming that we're just going to walk up and face a team who are lacking confidence, lacking form, and win. I mean, they have had 2 wins in the FA Cup recently, went away to Wolves last week and got 2-0. I think parts of their game against, Wolves again in the Premier League on Sunday last time, that did impress me. And Danny Ings for me is the key for Southampton in the box. This guy, their top goal scorer so far this season with 9 goals. He's just so deadly. He scored against Chelsea last time in the Premier League, and if you give him space and he gets good delivery, he's going to be deadly in the box. And that's where Chelsea's defenders without Thiago Silva really need to be on high alert, because even with Southampton struggling at the moment, they've got one of the best and most lethal strikers in the Premier League. Consistently knows where to be, finding space, exploiting mistakes from centre-backs, and that's something Chelsea have to be aware of going into tomorrow's game. But just looking a little bit closer at Southampton under Hasenhüttl, another 9-0 defeat recently. Just crazy he's had 2 of those so close to each other. But as you see here, the win in that last 5 games was in the FA Cup against Wolves. So they've done well in the FA Cup to get to the last 8 like Chelsea, but in the Premier League their form has seriously deteriorated. 6 defeats in a row in the Premier League. They've conceded 20 goals since their 1-0 win over Liverpool on the 4th of January. Hasenhüttl did say in his pre-match press conference about this that he may have to change his system, may look alternative for the way he sets up against Chelsea, which I think is intriguing. I still think he'll go for the 4-4-2 formation or the 4-2-2-2 that he goes for pretty regularly, as you can see here. Still very dangerous players. I mean, other than looking at Danny Ings, other than looking at the pressing of Southampton, which I think can cause Chelsea issues tomorrow, I also look at James Ward-Prowse, who is incredible on set pieces. I mean, this is the one thing, you go into a game, I'm thinking about how we're going to set up against Southampton tactically in that midfield. If you're just going to give them loads of set pieces where James Ward-Prowse can get on top of them, whether that's from a corner, which they've scored a lot from this season, his delivery is exceptional, but as well, giving them set pieces outside the box. I mean, if they're struggling to create against us, if you give away fouls anywhere near the box, we know how lethal James Ward-Prowse can be on those with his right foot. So that's a big player as well for them. He's instrumental to their creative play. And I think pressing, once again, this is what I want to get into when I'm speaking about Chelsea, because I think for the first time tomorrow, we're going to start to see if Tuchel remains with the midfield 2 that he's gone with consistently so far. I think we're going to see the biggest test for them in terms of a team not just sitting back. We saw glimpses of this against Sheffield United, who did press up the pitch in that first half, but it sort of deteriorated as the game went on and Chelsea took control. But Southampton are not going to be reactive, despite what Hasenhüttl was saying of maybe changing up his system, maybe changing up his formation. The way Southampton play under him, I don't think is going to radically alter. They want to press, they want to get up the pitch, they want to be proactive, they're going to hound Chelsea with the ball. And I think back to that game in October, that crazy 3-3 draw, and where Chelsea, especially in that second half, could not get out of their own half. And this is the big issue when you have Jorginho and Kovacic, especially Jorginho, who's done well recently, but when a team is actually going to go and press him on the ball and just not going to allow him to have the ball, can he deal with that? Can Chelsea and can Tuchel find ways of progressing the ball up the pitch if Southampton's press is on it? If they're not on it, you go psychologically, Southampton were doing a lot of things off instinct recently, and there was confidence to press, confidence to be brave on the ball. When of course your form deteriorates and things start going wrong, does that sort of confidence and psychological part of the game really impact you? And as we know of pressing, and as we've seen with Southampton, and Timo Werner benefited off this in October, if it isn't right, if it isn't done well, Chelsea can find space behind them. But if it is done well, do Chelsea have a way to counteract that and defend against Southampton's intense press? Because they do like to commit a lot of bodies into the box. There's such a fluidity and knowing where to be at the right place at the right time. And defending wise, I think the likes of Andreas Christensen are going to have a lot more to deal with tomorrow than they have recently, or at least a different type of attack than they have recently against Sheffield United, against Newcastle, against Burnley, that Chelsea have thrived against. So that's something to get into. But let's get into my predicted lineup now. Not a lot of variation for me on this. I'm just being safe. I'm playing it safe because I'm going to go with players he has picked recently, Tuchel. As you can see, firstly here, we're sticking with the same formation. I don't think he's going to alter it. Once again, it's working at the moment, and I just don't know why you'd want to alter something that is working despite the opposition. As I say, there are concerns over that. So Mendy back in the team, rested against Barnsley and Newcastle, but Tuchel has been very adamant that he is number 1 and will be back in goal tomorrow, which is good. Dave Christensen, really good at starting back 3 for the last 2 Premier League games. James, I don't think that's going to change. I mean, maybe in terms of rotation, if you want to freshen up things, you bring Kurt Zouma back into this starting 11, but he hasn't started so far in the Premier League for Thomas Tuchel. I don't think that's going to change tomorrow. And then we get into that midfield two, Jorginho and Kovacic. Now, I have said all week that N'Golo Kante might be prioritised here to bring in. This could be the desired game for him to bring him back in terms of the type of team it is, added that mobility in that double six. But then you're sort of thinking, Kante, Kovacic. I was speaking to Dan McCarthy, and you haven't seen my two-part sort of discussion with him. In the second part, we speak, but no, actually, sorry, it was the first part when we speak about tactics and Tuchel so far, bringing him to Stamford Bridge and what he's doing with Jorginho and Kovacic. And Jorginho pretty much staying very deep at the moment. He's sticking to his position. He is not going out of position. He's not pressing up high, which is getting him out of position. And we know the mobility issue of Jorginho to get back and teams pass around him. So I'm going to go with Jorginho and Kovacic just because it's the midfield two he's gone for so far. And Kante may be used against Atletico Madrid, a massive game in the Champions League against a very, very good side. But if Jorginho and Kova do play, it's a little bit of intrigue for me to see how it works against an opposition like this. And if they can flourish once again, happy days it really is, because both of them have been performing really well so far, and Kovacic was outstanding the other night. As you can see from my wing backs, Reece James and Marcus Alonso, I can't see Alonso getting out of this side at the moment. The only reason I'd think is maybe opposition-wise, but also maybe rotating for that Champions League game. Reece James I am going to bring in here for Callum Hudson-Odoi. I just think defensively having to deal with a little bit more, and I think Reece hasn't done a lot wrong when he has played, so I'm going to bring Reece James back into the side. And then we get into that front three, which is the front three that played most of the game on Monday night when Olivier Giroud came on for Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount, Timo Werner and Olivier Giroud. Timo Werner scored twice against Southampton the last time he played them in October, and this is the thing, that double-edged sword of playing a high-pressing team. And you look at Timo Werner, especially in the position he's in now, getting that space, sort of that relationship he has with Marcus Alonso. If that can work once again with one of them going inwards, the other going out, I think that can really work to great effect against this Southampton side. And if Hasenhüttl's side press up the pitch and we get space in behind, Timo Werner now has a goal to his name. Hopefully there'll be that confidence in front of goal for Chelsea to exploit. And I also think once again Mason Mount pressing up the pitch, getting space in behind Olivier Giroud, who did score the other night. His link-up play needs to be better, and this is my only concern with Giroud, with a team that is going to press up the pitch a little bit more. The only reason I'm going for Giroud is because I think maybe Tammy Abraham, just fitness-wise, even though he's in the squad, I always think when he's come off the pitch for an injury, he may not start the next game, may come off the bench. But I think Tammy would add you more mobility and pace in behind against a side who, as I say, are going to be more proactive in their pressing and in the way they want to play the game at home. So I just want to touch on Kai Havertz, who could start this game now back in the squad, and I am intrigued to see what Kai Havertz does in this team. The one place I would actually put him, and I do think it would surprise a lot of people, but personally for me, is as that false nine. I wouldn't replace Mount or Werner. I'd actually play Kai Havertz as the false nine, sort of that focal point, simply for the fact that you see Tuchel's central forward so far, they are dropping quite deep. As I was speaking with Dan McCarthy about, whether it's Tammy Abraham, whether it's Olivier Giroud, we've even seen Werner at times play there too. I just think the interchangeable nature of the front three, I think Tuchel wants with this team. I just wonder whether Kai Havertz could fit into that. But will he come straight back into the starting 11? I'm not entirely sure, so I've gone for Olivier Giroud. But that is my starting 11 for the game tomorrow. Let me know yours in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.